Commander Jason Hale settled into seat 14A, adjusting his navy blue jacket as his 9-year-old son, Ethan, buckled in beside him. The evening flight from Seattle to Boston was full, a mix of tired families returning home and professionals heading out for Monday meetings. Jason glanced out the window, feeling the familiar ache of reflection. 6 months had passed since he'd left the Navy after 16 years of service as a fighter pilot. The decision hadn't come easily, but after Emma's passing 2 years earlier, Ethan needed him home more than the Navy did. "Dad, look at those planes," Ethan whispered, pressing his face to the window as they rolled past a row of military aircraft parked near the runway. Jason smiled faintly, recognizing the silhouettes immediately. "Those are FA-18 Super Hornets," he said quietly. "Used to fly those once upon a time." Across the aisle, a woman with chestnut hair and a calm, professional air looked up from her laptop. She was dressed in a charcoal blazer, her posture straight but approachable. "Excuse me," she said politely. "Did I hear you say you flew Super Hornets?" Jason nodded. "That's right." "For a while," she smiled and extended a hand. "I'm Rebecca Collins, journalist for Aeroworld magazine. I'm actually writing a feature on modern combat pilots. Would you mind if I asked about your background?" Ethan's face lit up. "My dad was the best pilot. He could fly faster than sound." Jason chuckled softly. "Ethan, remember what we said about letting people work?" "Oh, she's fine," Rebecca said warmly. "I think that's amazing. Most people only dream of doing something like that." "I did my time," Jason replied modestly. "Flew Hornets for about 10 years before transitioning to command." Rebecca's eyes brightened. "That's an elite group. There aren't many who make it to that level." Before Jason could respond, the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, air traffic control has asked us to hold position briefly due to military training exercises nearby." Passengers began pointing as 2 sleek fighter jets streaked past the window, wings flashing silver in the late sunlight. "Dad, they look just like yours," Ethan said, awe in his voice. The man seated behind them leaned forward. "Did you say your dad flew those?" "Yes, sir," Ethan said proudly. "He's a pilot and has medals and everything." Jason felt his face warm, but before he could respond, Rebecca leaned closer. "May I ask, what was your call sign?" "I've always been fascinated by those." Jason hesitated, then said quietly, "Ghost." A man 3 rows ahead turned around sharply. He had close-cropped hair and the alert posture of someone with a military past. "Excuse me," he said, standing up. "Did you just say ghost?" Rebecca looked curious. "Why? Does that mean something?" The man approached with an eager grin. "Lieutenant Colonel Mark Ellis, U.S. Air Force. I've heard stories about a Navy pilot named Ghost. Unmatched kill ratios in joint exercises, Operation Sentinel. Are you that Ghost?" Jason exhaled, offering a polite handshake. "I used to be." Ellis shook his head in disbelief. "Sir, you're a legend in the community. They still talk about the Sentinel mission, how you intercepted 2 hostile aircraft before they reached the carrier group. It's an honor to meet you." The passengers nearby began to murmur. Jason could feel eyes turning toward him. "I was just doing my job," he said simply. Like everyone else, Rebecca's curiosity deepened. "That must have been intense. What was it like?" Ellis glanced at Jason for approval before speaking. "Let's just say Ghost here saved a lot of lives that day." "It was textbook courage under pressure." Jason cleared his throat softly. "Colonel, I'd prefer not to discuss those details in public." Ethan tugged at his sleeve. "Dad, what did you do?" Jason looked at him gently. "Sometimes, son, pilots have to make quick choices to keep people safe. That's all." Rebecca studied him thoughtfully. "Commander Hale, you sound like someone who's seen both the glory and the cost of service." Jason smiled faintly. "Heroes are the ones who didn't come home. I was just lucky." The cabin grew quiet. Even the nearby passengers seemed moved by the humility in his tone. Ellis sat back down, nodding respectfully. "If I may ask, sir, why'd you leave? Men like you usually stay in for life." Jason looked at Ethan. "Because he needed me more than the Navy did. After his mother passed, I couldn't keep flying halfway around the world while he waited for a call that might not come. Family comes first." Rebecca closed her laptop completely. "That must have been an impossible choice." "It was," Jason said quietly. "Flying was my identity. But being a father, that's my purpose." Ethan slipped his small hand into his father's. "I'm glad you're home, Dad." Jason squeezed his fingers gently. "Me too, buddy." The intercom crackled again. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been cleared for takeoff." Colonel Ellis stood and saluted lightly. "It's been an honor, sir. If you ever think about teaching again, there's a whole generation that could use a pilot like you." Jason nodded with a small smile. "Thank you, Colonel. But my teaching's happening right here." He looked down at Ethan, who beamed back at him. As the engines roared and the aircraft lifted into the sky, Rebecca leaned across the aisle once more. "Commander, if you ever decide to share your story, your real story, I'd be honored to tell it. Maybe someday," Jason said, watching clouds slide past the window. "But right now, I've got a different kind of mission." Ethan rested his head on his father's shoulder. "When I grow up, I want to fly planes too." Jason smiled, his heart full. "Then remember, be brave, be kind, and take care of the people you love. That's what really matters." As the plane climbed higher into the evening sky, Commander Jason Hale, once known as Ghost, held his son's hand, knowing that sometimes the greatest acts of courage don't happen in the air, but in the choices we make for love and family.